Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, brothers and sisters? Hope you're well. We are doing live with Ajmal Masroor, inshallah, for the rest of the hour. Sorry about slight delay in starting our program. We were supposed to start at 10:30, but some technical issues came up. We are now starting at 11. Forgive us. We will, inshallah, resume our program as usual at 10:30, as advertised on Wednesdays. But for today, we are talking about mortgage. The difference between a conventional mortgage and an Islamic mortgage. We started that discussion last time I was here, and a lot of people called in and messaged us to say, please, can we clarify this, simplify the conversation, and keep it palatable, digestible, such that people don't get confused by and don't get and become too technical. And that's exactly what we want to do today. We want to make our program as easy as possible. I'll try my best to do the program both in Bangla and English. And of course, our guests are welcome to speak in any language they like within those two, English or Bangla, or both. আজকের প্রোগ্রামের বিষয়বস্তু হচ্ছে আমাদের ইসলামিক মর্গেজের সাথে কনভেনশনাল মর্গেজের তুলনা আমরা দেব ইনশাআল্লাহ, তুলনা করব এবং আমরা জানতে চাবো কোনটা আমাদের জন্য বেস্ট, ইসলাম কোনটার প্রতি সম্মতি দেয় আর কোনটার প্রতি সম্মতি দেয় না। আজকে আমাদের সাথে গেস্ট তিনজন আছেন, তাদের পরিচয় আমি আপনাদের সম্মুখে দেব। গত কয়েকদিন আগে আমি যখন এই প্রোগ্রাম করেছিলাম আপনাদের জন্য, অনেক কনফিউশন ক্রিয়েট হয়ে গিয়েছিল তখন, অনেক প্রশ্ন আসার কারণে এটাকে আমরা আবার করতেছি। এখন আমরা আশা করব ইনশাআল্লাহ আপনারা আমাদের প্রোগ্রামে জয়েন করবেন এবং এই প্রশ্ন এবং আপনাদের প্রশ্ন আমরা বিস্তারিত আলোচনা করব এবং উত্তর দেওয়ার চেষ্টা করব ইনশাআল্লাহ। আমার সাথে এখন জড়িত আছেন আমার প্রোগ্রামে আবুল ফাজল, উনি হচ্ছেন ব্রাঞ্চ ম্যানেজার অফ আল রায়ান ব্যাংক। আবুল ফাজল, who is a branch manager of Al Rayan Bank. Sultan Chowdhury, chairman for Precept Finance, and our dear Sheikh Abul Kalam Azad, who has joined us too. Can I say salamu alaikum to you all, gentlemen, on our program? Thank you very much for coming to our program. I know it's a long track for you, Brother Sultan, because you have come all the way from Birmingham, and we're very grateful.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Look, you are a pioneer in this field, so I'm going to start with you. You run an organization called Precept Finance. It's an Islamic mortgage broker. That's how you describe yourself. But you used to be the former CEO of Al Rayan Bank, a leading brand for Islamic mortgage. What's the difference between Islamic mortgage and conventional mortgage?
So there's a couple of ways of explaining what the difference is. But let's just quickly just summarize very simply what the similarities are.
Okay.
Because that's what often leads to the confusion. So ultimately, they're just both forms of providing finance to buy a house, right? Buy a home, okay? And as such, you have to pay something towards buying that house and pay something for the finance. So people have a misconception that Sharia compliant mortgage, Islamic mortgage, is cost-free. So let's dispel that from the first moment, right? From the outset. They both have a cost, right? We understand that first of all. So we know the similarities. It's buying a house via a financing mechanism. Now a conventional mortgage, it's very simple actually. It's a loan contract and the security is your home, right? That's a charge, right?
So I buy a house. Imagine this is a house. I come to the bank. The bank says, okay, we will give you the money. And in return, the guarantee of this money is this house itself.
But it's a loan with interest clauses.
Okay.
Anybody who picks up a mortgage contract will see, here's £100,000 and you'll pay 5% interest a year, or whatever the number is. So it's very clear cut. It's an
Over a period
charge.
of time, yes.
Over a period of time. And over that time you pay some principal, what they call principal, and you pay interest. Okay? Now, obviously that inherently has a riba clause in, right? You know, a contract has interest clauses. Now with a Sharia compliant finance, or Islamic finance, the contract is a bit different because actually the ownership changes. In that conventional one, you own the house. You just gave it as security and you took a loan. You pay interest.
You can do what you like to this house. It is yours.
Well, there are obviously often
You can't knock it down,
There are conditions, right? But
you can do extension. You can do all sorts of things.
if you get permission, you find you have to get permission of the bank, even for an extension. Now, with an Islamic mortgage, fundamental difference is your portion of the house, your deposit represents how much of it you own. So if you put 20% down, that's how much you own.
Okay.
And the bank owns the rest. and its ownership, and it's recognized in the land registry. So the government recognizes it in the land registry. The regulator, the Bank of England, they say it's a different product.
So let me explain this with a piece of paper here.
Sure.
So I come to you to buy a house
Yes.
in an Islamic mortgage or Islamic mortgage product, and the house is represented by this piece of paper.
Yes.
If I say I'm going to buy 25% of the house,
That's right.
that 25% of this piece of paper, roughly this amount,
Yeah.
is mine.
Correct.
The 75% is the bank's
Correct.
or the person who has given me the money.
And that's recognized in law.
However, together the entire property is recognized in the land registry as shared ownership, right? 25% owned by me. How is it?
No,
How is
no,
it
in the
recognized?
land registry, and this I don't want to get too technical, but in the land registry, the freehold title is held by the bank. The leasehold title is held by the tenant or the customer.
But if I buy a house from a conventional mortgage,
Yes.
the freehold title will be in my name, with an interest, a party interest
Correct.
registered,
Correct.
which is the bank's.
Correct. But it's not just about the freehold title. That's really a mechanism in English law. What you have is what we call beneficial interest. So even if the bank has the freehold title, the law recognizes your ownership for what we call beneficial interest.
But in the conventional bank, it's the same. The law recognizes this is your house.
No, yeah, but not just for the 25% as in the Islamic mortgage, right? The
Until you have paid.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So
Right.
let's understand this.
Yeah.
And you talk about charges. With a conventional bank, the charge is very clear.
Yes.
It's the percentage interest that you pay.
Correct.
That's the charge.
Correct.
What's the charge in an Islamic mortgage then?
Well, it's pretty simple. As I described it, it's a freehold and a leasehold. It's a tenant and a landlord. What do you pay to a landlord? You pay rent.
So you pay rent on the 25% that you don't own.
75% in your example.
I'm glad you noticed. 75% that you own.
That's right.
That
pay
you don't
rent.
own, right?
Yeah.
And you keep this yours.
That's
And
right.
if you buy more, you pay less rent.
You pay less rent, but you own more of a house.
So a point could come where you own 25% and bank owns 25%.
Correct.
Who determines the rent?
The bank.
And is it determined by the high street rate?
When you say the high street rate, you mean the market rate?
Market rate,
of the
yes.
rent? No,
Yeah.
no, because what you want in any contract is some certainty, right? I don't want to know that in a particular high street, a particular street, there might be 5 houses exactly the same, but each house is a different rent, right? If the street outside this building, each house might have a different rent. So then we end up disputing. You'll say, no, it's £1,000 a month. I'll say, no, it's £1,100 a month. And it's actually very difficult to administer. So what do? We base it, we index it. What we say in banking, we index it to the Bank of England's interest rate, for example.
So it's the diminishing co-ownership agreement
Correct.
that you're talking about.
Correct.
Okay, let's go to yourself. So how does Al Rayyan Bank operate then? I've had so many criticisms of your bank about its Islamic mortgage, whether it is really Islamic, whether it isn't, etc. So here is your chance, not to dispel all of it, but let's start with your product. How does it work? Exactly the same as what our brother here has said?
So essentially, it's a similar principle, exactly the same principle. So you have the musharaka, which is the partnership, and the ijara, which is the leasing side of it. Now, in terms of the bank operational, we're just like any other banks where we have the customer advisors, where we have the mortgage finance, home purchase finance specialist, and where the customer comes in to inquire about the Islamic finance, we will take them through the eligibility process. So, in a nutshell, there is not much difference in terms of from the outset, but obviously the core difference is actually the product that we offer and the services that we offer in an Islamic bank. And primarily the difference is actually on the contract that we have as well. Now, what Sultan Bhai also mentioned is that the Islamic finance, in terms of the contract as well, how the contract is derived. One of the things that you have to understand is that in Islamic finance, the money itself has no intrinsic value. Okay, it's just so the money is used. In the conventional finance, money itself is used as a commodity. But in Islam, it's not used as a commodity. Okay, it's a mode of transactions. So we just use that to exchange as a mode of exchange. Okay, the real asset is actually the property itself. Okay, and it has to be the contract itself have to be based on that property. Okay.
Okay. It is a bit technical. Let's also get Sheikh Abdul Kalam Azad to join in. Sheikh Abdul Kalam Azad, this diminishing co-ownership or musharaka, as our brother here has put in, what are the Shari'i terms and conditions for musharaka from Islamic perspective? আমাদের musharakaর জন্য কোন কোন condition meet করতে হবে Islamic আইন অনুযায়ী?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله ومن أحبه ومن والاه وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. As Brother Ajmal Masroor, is my pronunciation correct? Ajmal Masroor.
Yes, correct, absolutely correct, all the time. You can't get it wrong.
Alhamdulillah. You mentioned that we need to speak in Bengali as well, so that our Bengali viewers, in particular our Murubbis, understand easily. So if you allow me, I want to explain in Bengali.
Please do,
okay?
go ahead, yes.
Alhamdulillah. তো প্রথমে তো সুলতান চৌধুরী ভাই এবং আবুল ফজল ভাইকে শুকরিয়া। আমি আসলে তাদের একজন ক্লায়েন্ট ছিলাম এক সময়, in the very beginning, এবং ওই সময় যতটুক বুঝেছি আলহামদুলিল্লাহ রাব্বিল আলামিন, আমি একজন ক্ষুদ্র শরিয়ার ছাত্র হিসেবে আমার মনে হয়েছে ইট ইজ পারফেক্টলি ফাইন। কারণ হলো যে আপনি যখন কোনো কিছু কিনবেন এবং শেয়ারে কিনবেন, তো শেয়ারে কেনার পরে এটার উপরে আবার সেকেন্ড একটা ডিল হতে পারে, সেটা কেনার সময় হতে পারে, কেনার পরেও হতে পারে। ব্যাংক যেটা করে, এই আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিংটা আসলে আগেই হয় দুজনের মধ্যে, যে আমি আজমাল মাসরুর ভাইয়ের কাছ থেকে একটা বাড়ি কিনবো, সুলতান চৌধুরী ভাই হলেন আপনার ইসলামিক ব্যাংক বা আল রায়ান ব্যাংক, উনি তো ইসলামিক ব্যাংক অফ ব্রিটেন ছিলেন আগে। তো ওনারা বলবেন যে ঠিক আছে আপনি বাড়ি কিনবেন, বাড়িটা আগে আমি কিনি, ব্যাংক আমাকে কোনো টাকা দিবে না, ব্যাংক আজমাল মাসরুর ভাইকে টাকা দিবে। তো অ্যাকচুয়ালি ব্যাংকের বাড়িটার আসল মালিক হচ্ছে ব্যাংক। এরপরে ব্যাংক সেকেন্ড ডিড করে আমার কাছে আবার বিক্রি করবে দুইটা ভিত্তিতে, একটা হলো শেয়ার ওনারশিপ, এবং এর একটা এগ্রিমেন্ট থাকে যে ডিমিনিশিং ওনারশিপ, আমি প্রতি মাসে ব্যাংকে একটা নির্দিষ্ট হারে ব্যাংকের যে পোর্শন আছে ওখান থেকে আমি কিনে নেব, এবং আমি যে তার টেনান্ট হিসেবে থাকি তার একটা আমি ভাড়া দিব। তো একদিকে আমি ভাড়া দিচ্ছি, একদিকে আমি মালিকানা কিনে নিচ্ছি। তো ইসলামের শরিয়াতে এই যে পার্টনারশিপ, এটা অবশ্যই জায়েজ আছে, এবং এখানে কোনো রকমের গরার বা ধোঁকা নেই, এটা ইজ অল ক্লিয়ার। আমাদের অনেকে এরকম বলতে চান যে ইসলামিক ব্যাংকিং সিস্টেম এবং হাই স্ট্রিট মর্গেজ সিস্টেম ইজ দ্য সেম। আসলে যারা জানেন না তাদের কাছে এটা সেম মনে হয়। সুলতান মেহতা পুষ্কর ভাই বলেছেন যে লিগালি এখানে দুইটা কন্ট্রাক্ট হয়, একটা হলে ব্যাংকের সাথে সেলারের, এরপরে হয় সেলারের ব্যাংকের সাথে নিউ বায়ারের। সুতরাং এইখানে মালিকানা বা শরিকানার ভিতরে বিন্দুমাত্র কোনো গলত আছে বা কোনো কিছু হিডেন কিছু আছে আমি এখনো পাই নাই। আল্লাহু আ'লাম।
Very, very clear. That's very good. Okay, let's go to our callers and see what the callers want to say first. So এখন আমরা কিছু কল নেব and দেখি কলারদের কি মতামত। হ্যালো, আসসালামু আলাইকুম কলার।
Hello.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother.
How are you doing?
Very fine, excellent. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah. Ji, what would you like to say?
Excellent subject you have came with. I called long time ago to get a mortgage from Islamic Bank.
Okay.
And I said my income is not going to meet the requirement to borrow the money.
Okay.
They said, don't worry about that. We will make the paper for you. This is one big comment I'm making. They will make the paper for me. Now, it could be a false. It could be anything. Okay, that's one thing. Secondly, if you
Hang
get
on,
any
before you go any further, So you went to an Islamic bank and you told them you want to buy a house and you don't have enough income to be able to buy it. And the Islamic bank said, don't worry, we will make the purchase possible, or we will make the paperwork for you. What did they say?
We will make the paperwork for you.
What does that really mean?
Like, if I can't afford to, whatever the money I'm earning, I'm not supposed to get the mortgage, but they can make the paper for me.
So they can give you mortgage even though you are not eligible legally, entitled legally
right.
because of your earning.
That's right.
Okay,
This is
so
one point.
which Islamic bank was this?
This is Al Ryan. I went to, before they call Al Ryan, whatever name.
Islamic Bank of Britain at that time. Okay.
That's right, yes.
Then, okay.
Now,
And then what
second
happened? Carry on.
Second point is mine. If you get a mortgage from them or buy a house through them, nobody can afford it. Because
When you say nobody, I know lots of people who are able to pay their monthly payments and they can afford it. When you say nobody, I think you're not being fair. You can say, I can't afford it.
Okay, I'll explain to you.
Okay.
If there is a rent, if the mortgages I'm paying for my house £200 a month,
Okay.
there is £400 a month. That is not an
So
Islamic
you are
tax.
saying Islamic Bank of Britain at that time or Al Rayyan Bank right now are more expensive than high street banks. That's what you're saying.
Definitely, brother.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. I understand that. What's your next point?
But this is the point I'm trying to make.
Okay. So
If
what
I want to borrow
what
money-
is it that you're trying to make by saying this? Are you saying people should not go to Islamic Bank of Britain or Islamic Bank
No.
for
I
Islamic
like to
product?
go. I shouldn't say that. I do Friday. I'm an imam as well. So I do that as well.
Well,
What
I
I'm
don't
trying to make-
I don't know anything about you. So whether you're an imam or an astronaut, it makes no difference to my program.
No.
What I
I'm
want to
trying
know
establish,
is what
I
are you
want
saying
the
to
halal
people?
mortgage. I want the halal mortgage. But the thing is, why they're taking advantage of it when there is in the market is 1%, 1.5%.
All right,
There
thank you.
is 4%.
I got it. I understood. Why are you taking advantage of people by charging them so much? That's probably his bit more substantive point than the first one. First one we can't really investigate, so really it's a hearsay. Let's go to the next caller. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, caller.
ওয়ালাইকুম আসসালাম ওয়া বারাকাতুহু।
Go ahead.
আপনারা সবাই ভালো আছেন?
আলহামদুলিল্লাহ, আপনি কেমন আছেন?
আলহামদুলিল্লাহ। আমার প্রশ্নটা হচ্ছে,
জি।
আমি যদি নরমাল ব্যাংকের থেকে লোন নিয়ে বাড়ি কিনি এবং তারা যদি আমাকে ভ্যারিয়েবল করে দেয় এবং তাদেরকে আমি কিছু 10% বা 5% আমি দিব, আর আল রায়ান ব্যাংক যদি আমার সাথে ব্যবসা করে বাড়ি কিনি, তাহলে তাদের পোর্শন আমার পোর্শন আলাদা হয়ে তারা একটা ভাড়া আমাকে নির্ধারিত করবে। তো ভাড়া তো তারা ফিক্সড করে দিল 6 মাসের জন্য, 2 বছরের জন্য, 1 বছরের জন্য। আর নরমাল ব্যাংকও তো আমাকে ফিক্সড করে যদি ভ্যারিয়েবল করে দেয় 6 মাস 1 বছরের জন্য। পার্থক্যটা কোথায় আমার? আমি কেন নরমাল ব্যাংকে বাড়ি কিনবো না?
ভেরি গুড আইডিয়া, ভেরি গুড পয়েন্ট। ওকে,
একটু দয়া করে বুঝে বলবেন।
হ্যাঁ, আমি বলবো এখন। আমি আবুল কালাম আজাদ ভাইয়ের কাছে যাবো এটার জন্য। আচ্ছা আবুল কালাম আজাদ ভাই, আপনি দ্বিতীয় প্রশ্নটার উত্তর একটু দেন। আমি যদি নর্মাল ব্যাংক থেকে একটা বাড়ি কিনি, আমি তাদের কাছ থেকে ফিক্সড মর্গেজ দিয়ে তো বাড়ি কিনতে পারি। তখন তো আমি জানবো এক্স্যাক্টলি কত আমি বড় করলাম এবং কত আমি দিচ্ছি। এখন তো 10 থেকে 15 বছর পর্যন্ত আপনি ফিক্সড মর্গেজ পাইতে পারেন। ইফ দ্যাটস পসিবল, আমি কেন যাব ইসলামিক ব্যাংকের কাছে আর একটা ডাবল অ্যামাউন্ট দেওয়ার জন্য?
জাযাকাল্লাহ খায়ের। আসলে আমরা ক্লায়েন্ট হিসেবে আমাদের কাছে কোন ব্যাংক ইসলামিক, কোন ব্যাংক অন ইসলামিক, দ্যাটস নট দ্য বিগ কনসার্ন। দ্য বিগ কনসার্ন ইজ যে ওয়েতে আমি মানিটা নিচ্ছি এটা ইসলামিক কিনা। এখন মনে করেন লয়ার্স ব্যাংক যদি ঠিক এরকম পার্টনারশিপে আমাদেরকে লোন দেয় এবং তারা অল্প চার্জ নিয়ে দেয়, দ্যাট ইজ অলসো হালাল। বাট দেখতে হবে যে তারা যে ডিডটা করে সেই ডিডটা আসলে মানে বেসড অন বাইং এন্ড সেলিং এন্ড পার্টনারশিপ হচ্ছে কিনা। এখন মনে করেন যদি যে ওয়েতে ইসলামিক ব্যাংকিং বা ইসলামিক ব্যাংক বাড়িগুলো দেয়, ঠিক একই ওয়েতে যদি মনে করেন অন্য হাই স্ট্রিট ব্যাংক দেয়, ইট ইজ অ্যাবসলিউটলি হালাল। Now the question will remain যে ইসলামিক ব্যাংকের চার্জগুলো হালাল কেন? আমি তো এই প্রশ্ন করি যারা মুরগি বিক্রি করে তাদেরকেও, যে আপনি পাশাপাশি দোকানে মুরগি বিক্রি করছেন, আপনি হালাল নাম করে আপনি 25% আপনি দাম বেশি দিচ্ছেন কেন? দাম বেশি কেন নিচ্ছেন? এবং আমি এই প্রশ্ন আরো করব আমাদের মুসলিম দোকানদারদেরকে যে যখন ক্রিসমাস আসে তখন সব মার্কেটগুলোতে আপনার সেল দেওয়া হয়, প্রাইস ডাউন করা হয়, আর আমাদের মুসলিম দোকানগুলোতে ঈদের সবচেয়ে দাম বাড়ানো হয়। আচ্ছা, 4 নম্বর হলো আমি এই প্রশ্ন করব প্যারেন্টদেরকে, যে আপনারা যখন হালাল তরিকায় আপনার মেয়ে বিয়ে দেন, আপনি মোহরটা কেন বাড়ায় দেন বলেন? মানে এই যে প্রশ্নগুলো আছে, এই হাইকিং দ্য প্রাইস, এটা কিন্তু আমাদের একটা জেনারিক প্রবলেম।
না না আচ্ছা, হাইকিং প্রাইসের জন্য এত কনসার্ন না নিয়ে আপনি প্রথম প্রশ্নের উত্তরটা দেন। তো হলো, আমি যদি একটা কনভেনশনাল ব্যাংকে যাই আর আমাকে যদি তারা ফিক্সড একটা মর্গেজ দিয়ে দেয়, আমি যাব কেন ইসলামিক ব্যাংকের কাছে অথবা ইসলামিক প্রোডাক্টের কাছে? আমি অলরেডি ব্যাংক থেকে পাচ্ছি ফিক্সড, এক্স্যাক্টলি নো হাউ মাচ আই এম বরোইং, হাউ মাচ আই এম পেইং ব্যাক। এখানে কোনো ভেরিয়েবল কিছু নাই।
It's not about fixing or not fixing, it's the process.
What's the process? What's the issue here?
না, যেটা আমরা আগে বললাম যে ইসলামিক ব্যাংক বাড়িটা সে ইসলামিক ব্যাংকের নামে কিনে নিবে এবং তার নামে দলিল হবে, তারপর ইসলামিক ব্যাংক আমার কাছে আবার বিক্রি করবে অন এ পার্টনারশিপ বেসিস। এখন হাই স্ট্রিট ব্যাংক যদি ঠিক একই প্রসেসে করে, ডেফিনেটলি দ্যাট কুড বি হালাল।
আপনি বলতেছেন শুধু এই পদ্ধতিতে বাড়ি কেনা যাবে, ইসলামিক বাড়ি কেনা যাবে, অন্য কোনো পদ্ধতিতে বাড়ি কেনা যাবে না, আপনি এটা বলতেছেন?
উন্নত আসলে পার্টনারশিপের যদি আরো এনশিওর থাকে।
আমি আপনাকে একটা এক্সাম্পল দেই। আমি যখন আমার প্রথম বাড়ি কিনলাম, আমার প্রথম বাড়ি কেনা হয়েছিল শেয়ার্ড ওনারশিপের মাধ্যমে। শেয়ার্ড ওনারশিপ হলো ভেরি সিমিলার টু ইসলামিক ব্যাংক, ইসলামিক প্রোডাক্ট। আমি বাড়ি কিনেছি, আমি ডিপোজিট দিলাম, ওই পার্সেন্টেজ হচ্ছে আমার, যে পার্সেন্টেজ আমার ছিল না, আই ওয়াজ পেইং রেন্ট অন ইট। And eventually, when I could afford the next lump sum, I would pay the next lump sum to add more. It wasn't called an Islamic bank. It wasn't called Al Rayyan Bank. It was just a local co-op, not the co-op company, but cooperative that offered me a shared ownership scheme. So why do I need to go to an Islamic product to find such product? I'm going to come back to you in a minute. Al Rayyan has been put under the spotlight by this caller earlier on. What's this business about making up income and trying to help this guy to buy a property? I mean, obviously he's being ungrateful, the fact that he was given an offer, but even if it was an offer, it was not a legal offer, was it?
Okay. Can I just make it very clear? Now, like Al Rayyan, any other bank, we are regulated by FCA credentials as well. So we are a regulated bank. We operate within the framework of regulatory requirements. Now, I can only speak for in terms of our eligibility and criteria in terms of finance. And as long as you meet the criteria and the finance, we will take you through the eligibility process. So as a regulated bank, we can only give you an information based on that framework. So I cannot say, or where he's got this advice from. But by all means, if you wanted to speak to me directly, I can assess his eligibility and see whether he's actually meets the requirements for the finance. But again, like I said, it's a regulated bank, and we operate within the framework of regulatory requirements.
Fine. So let's go to our next caller because we need to take a break. Hello, salam alaikum, caller. Salam alaikum. Go ahead. Ji. Please go ahead and speak. What would you like to say?
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Fahad. I work in banking.
Okay.
I guess my question was really around how you can define these Islamic businesses, banks, as halal. From my understanding of interest rate risk and where these banks generate their income from, my understanding is that they're effectively relabeling profit.
Yes, I think they are relabeling profit by saying you pay a rent on the portion of property that you don't own.
Completely agreed. And I guess my point is, if I'm taking out a mortgage with one of these Islamic banks, yes, they're saying it's halal, but is it not effectively like me going to a shop, asking if it's halal, and they're telling me it's halal, but it's haram meat?
No, but it's not. It's not like that. It's not like that. It's not like that. And even if somebody did that, if you went to a grocery and the grocery owner said, "I'm selling you halal meat," and it was haram, but you didn't know that, you have done your job, and that is.
I agree.
You don't have to really investigate the grocery before you buy the meat. As long as you ask, it's fine. Your question is, why do I need to go to an Islamic bank when I can get a bank to give me a mortgage, and they can charge, and their charges are interest rates. That's what you're saying.
It's not that. It's the business model for both banks are the same. They generate a profit from lending money to to people in the form of mortgages, and they take money in the form of deposits.
Okay.
The only difference I see in that business model is that banks call it interest and Islamic banks call it profit.
We want to talk about that precise difference, and I think that's where we're getting stuck. So when we come back after this break, we will want to talk about the differences between exactly how the product is different when we come back, inshallah. Don't go too far away. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Brother.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. We are broadcasting live. It's live with Ajmal Masroor, and tonight we're discussing mortgage. Difference between conventional mortgage and Islamic mortgage. What do you think? Is conventional mortgage a problem? Is Islamic mortgage the only alternative we have? You know what? I won't get an Islamic mortgage. I'm not entitled to it. So I have got to go to conventional banks. I can get it from conventional banks, and I can't get it from a Rayan bank. I've tried it. There are many people who are there who would be on the same boat. If you are in such a situation, what do you do? Do you not buy a house? What do you do? We will be discussing this, and we'll be discussing the exact difference between the Islamic product and the conventional product. Let's take a call. Hello, assalamu alaikum, caller.
Hello, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Go ahead. What would you like to say?
Okay, firstly, I'm a bit confused with this Islamic mortgage. Yeah.
Okay.
My question is that all the bank borrows money from Bank of England or governing government, whichever country it relates to. They buy the money from that particular governing countries or whatever Bank of England at a fixed rate, and then they forward it to the consumers, and they add the interest or profit, whatever. So initially, can you just differentiate? Are they borrowing this money and adding extra money to us? So that is also, they are inventing haram already.
Okay.
And then
interesting.
They are putting
an interesting spin you put on this one. Let me ask this to Brother Sultan. Brother Sultan, a lot of confusion. So Bank of England is the regulatory body that would oversee all of these transactions, right? Does Islamic banks or all the Islamic mortgage products borrow money from Bank of England first and then relabel it and put a charge on top to make a profit? Where do they get the money from?
No. So the money comes from the depositors of the bank, right? The Bank of England regulates it. In the event of a crisis, they often provide a facility to banks, what's called a liquidity facility. Islamic banks, unfortunately, do not have access to that facility because there is no Islamic instrument to access that facility. So they rely on the depositors' funds. The previous caller said, why is it more expensive? But you'll see that Islamic banks pay some of the best savings rates in the market. Many non-Muslims take out Islamic banking savings accounts, right? So the reality is we're raising the funds from the market in deposits and then having to give it to, charge it via home finance to the customers.
So the idea that Islamic bank or any bank would be borrowing money from Bank of England is a myth.
Not any bank.
Islamic bank doesn't.
Islamic banks don't.
So did you understand that, brother? You asked that question. Islamic bank doesn't borrow money from Bank of England. Islamic bank কখনো Bank of England কাছ থেকে কোনো পয়সা ঋণ নেয় না। যদি কখনো ইসলামিক ব্যাংকের ক্লোজ ডাউন অথবা কোনো প্রবলেম হয় তখন তাদেরকে ব্যাংক অফ ইংল্যান্ডও দিবে না কিছু। এই জন্যে এই প্রশ্ন ক্লারিফিকেশনের দরকার। তো আপনারা যে কল করলেন, just to clarify that Islamic bank or Islamic mortgage products, they don't take money from Bank of England, though the regulations that are there to govern and regulate this industry is of course determined by Bank of England. Our government of course are the ultimate body. To you then, accusation that Al Rayan Bank would eventually, if I fail to pay my monthly payments, I'll get my house repossessed. Repossession is not an Islamic concept. It's a secular concept. You can't make me homeless. And yet apparently, and not just one case, many cases of repossession has been noted by Al Rayan Bank.
Okay. I've been with the bank for about 15 years.
Right.
And Sultan Bhai would actually concur that as well. Now, we've, as Al Rayan Bank, we've done almost £2 billion worth of asset financing so far. And I've not come across any cases where we have actually repossessed any properties whatsoever. Now, there are very strict ruling on the repossessions, and it's done on a case-by-case basis as well. And even on the conventional banking, it's not what it used to be in terms of repossession. So it's a very strict guidelines. Now, in terms of Islamic banking, it's even more stricter as well. So I've not come across any cases where any repossession has taken place. Yes, there are cases. There have been a delayed payment, and the bank will work with the customer to work on that basis, what works best for them. But I've not come across any repossession at all.
Okay, very, thank you. Let's talk to the next caller. Hello, salam alaikum, caller. Caller, salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Go ahead, what would you like to say?
I'm not sure. I'm looking for my first house.
I can't understand your question, so please speak very slowly and clearly.
I'm looking to buy my first house, and I understand there's quite a few providers. My question is to Brother Sultan. I want to know, obviously, he's the chairman of Precinct Finance.
Your line is not very clear. From what I've understood from this brother is that he's a first-time buyer,
Right.
and he wants to buy property.
Yeah.
Where should you go?
So obviously we are a broker.
Yes,
so we
so
look
they
at
should
all.
come to you.
So we look at all the providers. Yeah. So Precept Finance, we look at all the providers, and we should be really clear. I know Al Rayan Bank is here today. There are other providers. Yeah, not just Al Rayan Bank. There's Gatehouse Bank. There's some of the Pakistani banks. There are providers. Now, if somebody's a first-time buyer, what happens typically? They go on, and there's lots of good deals, low deposits. You know, you can put 5% down. You can go and get a house, and you can go to many conventional providers. I know that there is a product from Al Rayan Bank where you can put 5% down, and you can basically take out an Islamic mortgage for 5% down. It's no different than a conventional in terms of the level of deposit.
Residential mortgage.
That's for one you want to live in as a first-time buyer.
Okay,
yes.
let's take the next call. Hello, salam alaikum, caller. Hello, salam alaikum, caller.
Walaikum salam.
Ji.
जी भाई हमारा क्वेश्चन है
जी
you just mentioned the Islamic bank, they don't deal with any UK bank.
No, he didn't say that.
No.
He said Islamic bank doesn't borrow money from Bank of England. That was a very clear statement.
Bank of England, but did they have a deal with the World Bank?
What do you mean the World Bank?
What?
No bank deals with World Bank. World Bank is a bank that lends money or deals with countries, not individual banks.
Right. So they don't have a liaison with the World Bank, right?
They can't, because World Banking is not open to you and me. It's open to a country. It's a country bank. So if Bangladesh wants to borrow money, they'll go to World Bank and they pay whatever interest rate there is. But Arayan Bank or Barclays Bank, for that matter, can't go to World Bank to borrow any money. It's not open to individual banks. Individual banks have different access. For Arayan Bank or Islamic banks, as we've been identifying, they borrow money from not borrow money, they use the money of the depositors or investors, as been said already. Let's take the next caller. Hello, salamu alaikum, caller. Okay, let's go to you, Brother Sultan, just to clarify. What is the exact distinction between Islamic product and conventional product? Please be very succinct and be precise, because our people are still confused.
Sure. So let's take a savings product first of all.
Okay.
Very simple.
Yeah.
Conventional one, you put your money in the bank. They say we're going to give you 1% interest rate. You get 1% paid every month, across a year, right?
So an example, I have £100.
Yeah.
Oh, £1,000. £100 sounds too little. I have £1,000 and I say to a conventional bank, Barclays Bank, for example, or NatWest Bank, I've got £100, put it in the savings account. How much am I getting?
So you're going to get £10 a year.
So £110, just £10 after 1 year, 1,010. I give it to an Islamic bank. What happens?
So an Islamic bank will say, we're going to target £10. It's not an interest rate, it's not a guarantee. We're going to target £10 if we make profit to pay you that money. Right? And if we make more, we have to pay you more.
But are you going to also...
So it's more like a dividend.
No, but
right?
are you going to also give me the possibilities that I could lose the value of my money. So if I put £1,000, if you make a loss, will I lose
So
too?
technically, yes, but because in this country you have a financial services compensation scheme, your deposit is capital guaranteed because of a government scheme.
But not because of an Islamic scheme,
Not,
because
not,
Islam
because,
doesn't.
not because of the Islamic product.
And this is something that needs to be clarified. আমি বাংলাতে এটা আপনাদেরকে বলি, আপনি যদি একটা ব্যাংকে 1000 পাউন্ড রাখেন, এই ব্যাংক আপনাকে যদি পার্সেন্টেজের জন্য আপনাকে 10 পাউন্ড দেয় এক বছর পরে, 1010, আপনার এই পয়সা ইন্টারেস্ট রেটের কারণে আপনি পাইলেন। এখন যদি আপনি ইসলামিক প্রোডাক্টের জন্য ইসলামিক ব্যাংকে রাখেন কোথাও, তারা আপনাকে এই ধরনের গ্যারান্টি দেবে না। তারা বলবে আমরা যদি প্রফিট বানাই আপনাকে দেব, প্রফিট না বানালে দেব না। আন্ডার ইসলামিক ল যদি আমরা লস করি, আপনিও লস করবেন। কিন্তু যেহেতু আমরা ইংল্যান্ডে বসবাস করি, আমাদের লসের গ্যারান্টি অলরেডি গভর্নমেন্ট দিয়ে দিয়েছে, আমরা লস করব না, আমাদের ক্যাপিটাল কখনো লস হবে না, এই গ্যারান্টি থাকার কারণে আপনার লস হচ্ছে না। What's the difference? There is no difference then.
The difference is, of course, that you know the contract you sign means you can lose. It's because we're operating in an environment.
So the possibility of but it is the guy was right. Is relabeling the same product.
No. Because everybody is not eligible for the financial services compensation scheme. We
Right.
know that it covers retail depositors, but if you're a big business or you have more than £85,000 in your bank account, you're not covered. So then, you know that.
So if I have £85,000 in my bank account and the bank goes belly up, I lose all of my money?
No, you get the protection up to the 85. And
Anything more?
Beyond that, you could lose it in theory if a bank went.
What else do you want to say?
Yeah, also in addition to that, the financial compensation scheme is actually an optional services. Now, as a Muslim, if you don't want to take that services, and then you have that choice to do so. So it's not you have to have that services. If you think that will go against your value, your faith, a lot of people, they think that because it's a guaranteed, in case if the bank does actually go bankrupt, then obviously this is a guaranteed return that they'll get on their capital. It might go against their value. So they might not take that. So it's entirely optional service.
But it is true that Islamic banking product is more expensive. When I was given a quote for a repayment mortgage. Conventional high street bank said to me, I need to pay £1,800 a month in return for a property of whatever value.
Yes, yeah.
The same product, exactly the same deposit, exactly everything I was giving the normal bank, Islamic Bank of, I was Arayan Bank, they gave me a quote for £2,400.
Let me give that a go, right? To answer that. Any pricing, whether you're selling a car or a mortgage product or a home finance from an Islamic bank, has a number of drivers, right? So the cost of that product. So what is the cost for the bank? It's the cost of the depositors' fund. We explained that already.
Yes.
Then you'll have other factors, right? So the risk that you're taking, you have to price that in because you'll have some losses. So you'll factor that in. And then your margin that you're going to make. So first of all, Islamic banks typically are paying more to their depositors. They're paying more for their funds. So it's more costly to produce an Islamic product. Look at the accounts of any Islamic bank. They're not making more money than a conventional bank. They're making less. So their margin, and you can work that out.
But you're then asking,
less.
you're then actually banking on, forgive me for using that term, you're actually banking on people's spiritual alliance with you. You're actually saying, because you are a Muslim, help us grow. That's what you're doing. You're actually counting on the blessings that people will want to gain from a halal product as opposed to a cheaper product.
No. So to a degree, you're right. But actually, what do the banks want to do? They want to get to the point where they can afford the cheaper funds. They can give you the product at a more competitive price.
It is only possible if more and more people take it.
Exactly. They've got to grow.
I mean, if you look back, say, 15 years ago, we don't have an options where we can go to a bank and we can take out Islamic product, whether it's be a saving account or a finance. 15 years fast forward right now, we can do that. And the reason for that is because we as a Muslim community, we supported the industry. And now that our generation, our next generation will benefit from that hard work. And you're right, Islamic finance, it is a bit more expensive than the conventional finance. But as Sultan Bhai explained already, it's the cost of financing.
And also the risk that you're taking. The bank is taking a huge risk, I understand.
Absolutely.
Let's take the next call. Hello, Assalamu alaikum caller. Assalamu alaikum caller. Go ahead, what would you like to say?
I'd like to say, what is the process of the what is the process of getting the Islamic mortgage?
What's the process?
Which is, I heard so far that people keep saying that it is very tough to get a Islamic mortgage because of the rules and regulations.
Okay, let's ask that question. Is this true then? Is this true, Abul Fazl, that when people come to you to get an Islamic product, for example, a mortgage, your rules are stricter than a high street bank?
Okay. In terms of the criteria itself, it's very, very similar to a conventional bank because, as I mentioned, we are working within the regulatory framework. So we have to ensure that the income multiples and customers' affordability meets the criteria. Now, if you have a look at what we've done for the past 15 years, we have done almost £2 billion worth of asset financing, and we have not had a single default. Sorry, we've not had a single repossessed properties. And that's purely because of the bank's due diligence, be able to assess customers' needs. Now, if we didn't do that from the outset...
But it is true that your due diligence is one step higher than everybody else's because you are also taking bigger risk by providing them the product itself.
Now, when you come to financing, now you have to understand the bank is actually taking the bigger risk here as well. If a customer comes, typically say the deposit is 5%, the bank here is taking the risk of putting 95% into the property. So naturally, the bank is taking a bigger risk here.
But the bank has every possibility of repossessing the property if somebody defaults. In Islamic term, you can't repossess the property.
Exactly. So now the bank will have to ensure that if he's going to finance the property, if he's going to go partnership with you, it has to make sure that you are able to pay the money back to the bank. You are able to continue with your finance.
Yeah, I get it. So your criteria is stricter. Is that true?
So let's think about this. Remember I said with a savings account, if we don't make the profit, we can't pay the target return. Well, what does that mean? It means actually you have defaults. You have people who can't pay their mortgage.
Of course. People who lose their job.
So then the people who are the savers will also suffer. So it's a balance of responsibility.
No, saying all of that,
yes,
these are justifications, I understand.
Yes, yeah.
But the caller is correct. The criteria used by Islamic products, especially mortgage products, is more strict than any other product.
So as a broker, we see lots of products.
Yes.
And every bank, so even between two Islamic banks, there's going to be differences, right? And it's to do with their appetite, their risk appetite. So one bank will say, I'm happier to give more finance to value, I can do 80%. Another bank will say 70%. One bank will say, I don't want to take risk in London relative to the Midlands, right? So every bank has the right to determine its kind of risk criteria, and that's what caused the difference. If you go into the conventional market, it's exactly the same.
So it is correct, then the criteria is stricter because there is a higher risk element. Let's take the next caller. Hello, Assalamu alaikum, caller. Caller, Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, caller. Don't fall asleep on me. Okay, let's go to the next call. Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ji, go ahead. We're listening.
আপনি আমার কথা শুনছেন?
এখন শুনতে পাচ্ছি, বলেন প্লিজ।
আচ্ছা, আমি দ্বিতীয়বারের মতো আপনাকে প্রশ্ন করতেছি। আমি প্রশ্ন করেছিলাম বারক্লেজ অথবা অন্য সেম ব্যাংক যদি আমাকে ভ্যারিয়েবল প্রতি মাসে অথবা 3 মাস অন্তর অন্তর আমার ইন্টারেস্ট চেঞ্জ হবে, ফিক্সড হবে না, এই শর্তে কি আমি বাড়ি কিনতে পারি কি পারি না?
আচ্ছা, এটা
ভ্যারিয়েবল কন্ট্রাক্ট হবে আমার সাথে।
বুঝতে পারতেছি। এখন প্রশ্ন এটা আপনি তাদেরকে করতেছেন, তারা তো ব্যাংকার্স। But let's understand. From your understanding, this person is given a variable rate by a bank.
Yes.
Can they buy a property?
Yes, of course. Because like a landlord can change his rent every 3 months, you have to agree to that. It's a mutual contract.
In Islamic term, আপনার প্রশ্নের ইসলামিক উত্তর হলো UK European Sharia Council Research and Fatwa Council issued a fatwa which said for buying a house which is your first home where you need to live, under such circumstances, because it's an exceptional situation, you are allowed to borrow money from a conventional bank. That's what the European Fatwa Council and Research says fatwa has been and still stands. If it's your first property to live in, you can borrow money from a high street bank to buy a house. Other scholars have said, well, while this fatwa is there is alternative available. There are Islamic products. If somebody can't get an Islamic product because of their situation, and they need to buy a house to live, under necessity, all the rules are suspended, and you're supposed to then find the best solution to be able to overcome your necessity. So you don't need to worry about the rules that are there. You just go to the nearest bank who is going to be able to offer you a lifeline, and you buy a property that you need. What is worse, to be on the street or to have a home? To give your family stability or give your children constant fear of change? All of these things are important. So yes, Sharia Council, Fatwa Council and Research of Europe, it makes perfect sense. But there is also the other opinion, alternatives available. And the final opinion is, under necessity, there are no rules. Let's go to the next caller. Assalamu alaikum. Go ahead. What would you like to say?
I've had a few questions actually. I think
You can only ask one question, not few.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll come straight to the point with one of the key ones. When taking up an Islamic mortgage, how do they provide like life insurance or any kind of insurance policies for that?
Okay, fine.
Is
Thank
it
you.
halal to do
Let's
that?
ask. Do Islamic banking or any products like this offer halal life insurances to protect mortgage repayment or anything like that? No.
So for all the products that I see at Precept, no is the answer, simply because there is no what we call life takaful products available in the UK market. There is a requirement for you to insure your property on behalf of the bank, because the bank is a landlord, but there is no product available in an Islamic
So
sense.
that's a good market to start, isn't it?
A perfect market to start.
A perfect product to start. So, young man, or whatever age group you are, you asked if there is any life insurance product that one could buy or offer one when you're buying a mortgage from an Islamic bank. The answer is no, there isn't one. And there is nothing like this in existence, apparently. And if it isn't, maybe somebody to start, maybe an initiative to start immediately. I remember when I was younger, in my younger days, there was a takaful company. And later on in my life, I saw another insurance company called Salam Insurance, I remember.
Salam, yes.
But none of them survived. And I wonder why they didn't survive. There must be something in this insurance product that doesn't really work. I don't know what it is, but it didn't survive. Let's take the next call, and it will be the final call for the evening, and then I'll get my guests to give me their final views too. Hello, Assalamu alaikum, caller.
Walaikum salam.
Go ahead, what would you like to say?
I mean, there are quite a few lenders, so I wanted to know what's the benefits of going to Precept?
He can't be promoting his services. It's against Ofcom rules. So you can say, what's the benefit of going to an Islamic product?
Yes.
Could that be your question?
Yeah.
Okay, answer that question, please.
First of all, right, you have a choice. All we're doing in this market is giving Muslims a choice to try and adhere to their faith in terms of avoiding interest. Now, there are obviously, you mentioned arguments of zururiya, necessity, etc., but there is an option. In this country, unfortunately, our brothers and sisters in Europe do not have this option. This option is here, and that's why I would urge people to consider Islamic finance. There are eminent scholars who have approved it. Like you said, there's a bit of risk transference on your part to say, these scholars have approved it. You know, I can avoid interest. I should try my level best to avoid it. And you have those options available to you.
And yourself, final words before we finish?
All I say to you is choice is yours, but the alternative is available.
But shouldn't the alternative be made slightly cheaper rather than so expensive?
It has become a lot cheaper. Now, I can tell you, we first doing the Islamic finance, which was back in 2007. The rates were really high. Now, it's all down to the customers who supported the industry. And we were able to reduce the cost of financing, overheads, and so forth. Now, I think definitely in time we'll be able to even compete or probably offer a better rate than conventional markets. But until and unless we have everyone on board and they're supporting this industry, then we will still be having these debates, you know. But end of the day, the choice is yours, and it's clear. You know, Islamic alternative is here.
You know, Islamic product could be very profitable. For example, in a country like Bangladesh, Islamic bank is making more profit
Absolutely.
than the conventional bank. In fact, I still remember reading an article in the Economist magazine, which said Islamic banks are the way forward because it cuts away all the unethical elements, and people will find more reassurance within the product, and they are more likely to make better profit than everybody else. Perhaps in Europe it hasn't yet caught up, but in other parts of the world they do. And maybe the way to make Islamic banking products more profitable is to get more Muslims to actually buy into the product. The more customers, the more disposable money they may have in their coffers, and therefore they may be able to invest in more varieties of products. Therefore, your borrowing and any other cost would be a lot less. It's a simple calculation, really. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have run out of time again. What we've understood today is that Islamic banking product is out there, and you can go and explore them. Even if they're slightly more expensive, you're making an ethical choice. And for ethical choice, just like you would pay more for organic meat, you may have to pay a little bit more for your halal and ethical bank. That's unfortunately the bottom line. However, by doing this, you're also creating an industry that could become cheaper eventually, because we can all become party to this particular venture if we all come together. So that's what I've learned. And also I've learned that there are a lot of myths out there about how Bank of England controls this, that and the other. We've clarified that. We'll continue these conversations inshallah over the next months and years to come, and eventually I'm pretty certain our community will be clearer. Let me thank my brothers here, Sultan Chowdhury and Abul Fazl and Abul Kalam Azad. I was going to call you Abul Kalam Azad by mistake. For their time, and to you all for your time and your valuable questions. Until next time, from me and my guests, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.